So the Xiaomi 14T Pro is a pretty badass, fairly affordable-ish new flagship smartphone, which I just reviewed here on TechSpert. If you go check out that video for all you need to know. But what happens if you can't quite afford one of these bad boys because you spunked all your money on Stella and Smokes? Well, no need to curl up in the shower and have a bit of a cry, because there's always the regular Xiaomi 14T. This boasts a similar design, similar HyperOS experience, basically the same gorgeous AMOLED display, more excellent battery life and another kick-ass camera. So here's my full Xiaomi 14T unboxing, including a squint at the camera tech, the game chops, all that good stuff, and seeing just how it stacks up against its Pro sibling. And for more on the latest and greatest tech, please do poke subscribe and ding that notifications bell. Cheers! So first up, what do you get stuffed inside of the box besides, of course, the Xiaomi 14T phone? Well, you've got yourself a lovely bit of USB charging cable action, quick start guide and safety guff, and you've also got yourself a condom case to slap on your fresh new Xiaomi 14T, keep it nice and safe. And that is actually it. No adapter bunged in the box for the Xiaomi 14T. Ruh-roh. I can already sense some people furiously smashing out their disapproval in the comments below. So the Xiaomi 14T is, shock, horror, surprise, another 6.67-inch smartphone. Haven't had enough of those lately. So it's the same size as that Pro phone, but a wee bit lighter at just 195 grams. That display, once again, completely flat and surrounded by pretty weeny bezels. So at least the Xiaomi 14T is no bigger than it has to be, but of course you've got those completely flat edges and you don't even have the subtle curvature around back that you get on the Pro model. So that hand feel not quite as good, sadly. Feels a bit too much like an iPhone for my liking, although not quite as ridiculously stupidly girthy. And one of the ways Xiaomi has made the regular 14T a bit lighter than the Pro is you've got a plastic frame here rather than the metal effort on the Pro. So yeah, the 14T certainly feels like a more budget-friendly device. Thankfully, you've got a matte back, once again, which is resistant to smudgy, grimy greasiness. And it's reasonably skinny, that camera bump doesn't poke out too far. And you've got the exact same color options here as you do with the Xiaomi 14T Pro. So this here, Titan Blue model, quite a nice subtle shade. Otherwise, Titan Grey or Titan Black. Clearly the color naming department just zero f***s to give. It's probably last thing on a Friday when they came up with these. However, coming completely out of left field, you'd also have a final color option with the Xiaomi 14T, and that is lemon green, which apparently comes with a fake leather arse. Absolutely no idea if that'll be available here in Blighty or not, fingers crossed. It's a reasonably hardy phone as well. Gorilla Glass 5 up front protecting that screen, as well as a pre-installed screen protector. And like its more expensive sibling, it's also IP68 water and dust resistant. Now it's the usual combination of fingerprint sensor and face unlock to actually get into the Xiaomi 14T, both working exactly as promised. Now, face unlock, not quite as secure as the fingerprint sensor, but it is bloody nippy, as you can see there, barely even see the lock screen again. And then once you're in, you've got your lovely HyperOS experience, of course, as usual, slapped on top of Android 14. And just like on the 14T Pro, this runs nice and smooth. Anyone who's used to Android will get on just fine with this, or should do at least, because you've got your apps tray, you can drag down that notifications bar, flick across for your control center, which is more iOS-esque. But I do like this setup because it's great being able to just fast access all your toggles with a single swipe. And as usual, HyperOS is highly customizable. You've got lots of different options packed in here, always on displays. You can change up the icons, fonts, even the fingerprint sensor effect. You get some proper trippy shit on the go. And as usual, HyperOS packed full with lots of bonus shenanigans, including gaming modes. You can check your heart rate if you want. And while once upon a time Xiaomi was pretty complacent when it came to OS updates and security patching, thankfully there are a lot more on it these days, taking it a bit more seriously. It's got a few years of updates with the Xiaomi 14T. No need to hoy it in the bin after just a year or two. And of course, it's not all sunshine and handjobs with HyperOS. There is some bad stuff, including heaps of crapware, Booking.com, Facebook, LinkedIn, lots of Amazon shenanigans, etc. So you'll probably want to get rid of as much of this as possible straight away, free up some storage, although at least you've got 512 gigs of space, or rather up to 512 gigs of space, depending on how much money you hoy at Xiaomi. And hey, if you're really into AI, well, you must be absolutely loving life at the moment, because that's all anyone's ever banging on about. But yes, you do have a lot of AI goodness packed onto the Xiaomi 14T, including Google's Gemini. Gemini is really good at helping you plan out a weekend or a holiday or whatever. You'll also have support for the likes of Circle to Search, AI Portrait, etc. These aren't quite ready to test on my review device, sadly. They should be coming to the Xiaomi 14T in an update hopefully soon. And that display appears to be the exact same 6.67-inch AMOLED panel that Xiaomi slapped on the 14T Pro, with the same 2712 by 1220 pixel resolution to keep those images gorgeously crispy. You've got the same 12-bit color depth as well as HDR10+ and Dolby Vision streaming support in the likes of Netflix. And you can once again completely bugger about with the color output inside of the display settings, choosing whether you want more natural looking tones, otherwise really boosting them up for a really slap you in the face visual experience. You got full support for the P3 and the sRGB gamut for your bit of photo editing or video editing. It's a powerfully bright panel as well, so if you do happen to live in sunnier climes, you won't have to squint too much or seek out shade to actually see what's going on. And the usual eye health type features chucked in here as well, bit of PWM dimming, and it is flicker free certified. So great news if you like to doom scroll at 3 AM. And up to 144Hz refresh rate supported, though not many manual options there. And Xiaomi has also slapped on a pretty ruddy decent stereo speaker arrangement on the 14T. Let's jack up that volume. While Siri is getting absolutely pumped full of AI. Can't help but feel that the result of that will be somewhat similar to handing a thesaurus to a toddler. Sure, it might be able to use fancy words all of a sudden, but underneath it all, it's still a bit of a thickie. So that is respectably loud when you bump that volume all the way up to the maximum levels, but the clarity stays pretty bloody good. It's actually quite bassy, again, just like the Pro, so yeah, respectable audio quality, although of course I wouldn't listen to music through those speakers. I'd always just slap on a Bluetooth headset. You got high-res audio certification, you got full support for Dolby Atmos as well. You can play around with various audio presets, otherwise you've got a bit of equalizer action if you fancy doing some manual tweaking. And when it comes to the brains of the operation, well, Xiaomi has once again gone MediaTek, but it's not the Dimensity 9300 Plus like what you get on the Pro. Instead, stuffed inside of the regular 14T, you'll find the Dimensity 8300 Ultra. And that's backed here in my review model by a hearty 12 gigs of RAM. And I found that the everyday HyperOS running absolutely fine, and gamers should have a good experience no matter what their favourite title is. Even a bit of Wuthering Waves ran absolutely fine when I jacked it up to the higher graphic settings, stuck it on the old 60 frames per second mode. In fact, I actually preferred the gaming experience here on the regular 14T compared with the Pro, as it didn't get anywhere near as toasty, mostly down to the choice of chipset. So even when I was gaming for a good hour or so, this phone only got moderately warm at best. Didn't see any kind of throttling of that performance. And yeah, you will get the occasional dip in the frame rate when the action gets a little bit intense or you're just absolutely bombing it from one end of the town to the other. But overall, it's cracking stuff. Screen nice and responsive. Of course, you've got that perfectly flat finish, which is well suited to gaming. And yes, you do have that dedicated gaming mode, courtesy of HyperOS, which you can slide out like so. And you've got a bit of performance mode action in there, which I recommend for the likes of Wuthering Waves. You can stick on a bit of Do Not Disturb, just make sure you haven't got pesky messages popping right up, ruining your concentration. And I've got zero qualms with the battery life here on the Xiaomi 14T as well. Like its Pro sibling, you've got a 5000 mAh capacity cell stuffed in there. And that's more than enough for all day play, no worries whatsoever. The Dimensity, pretty energy efficient. HyperOS seems to be pretty good at not draining excess battery in the background as well. Of course, you've got all the usual tools for shutting down apps in the background if you do want to preserve a bit more power. Plenty of power saving mode shenanigans too. And when it comes to recharging, yes, the regular 14T is slower than that more expensive Pro model, but it's still not exactly lethargic. You've got 67 watt wired charging support. So power up in a bit of a jiffy once you bung that cable in, but zero wireless charging support on here, unfortunately. So it is cables all the way, I'm afraid. And so finally, for this lovely Xiaomi 14T unboxing, let's have a good old squint at that camera tech. And as you can see, Xiaomi has once again partnered up with Leica to craft the optics here and produce an overall satisfying shooting experience. Now that primary shooter is a Sony IMX906 sensor, 50 megapixels, again, just like the Light Fusion sensor stuffed into that Pro. And once again, quite natural looking photos spaffed out by this thing with some gorgeous crispy contrast rather than the over brightened shenanigans you'll get from the likes of an Apple. But of course, if you do prefer those brighter, poppier snaps where you can always turn on Leica Vibrant with a quick jab of that, and this does produce more iPhone-esque results. And like its Pro sibling, you've also got a 12 megapixel ultra-wide angle shooter, and the Xiaomi 14T sports a 50 meg telephoto snapper. Although not quite as powerful as that Pro effort, this does max out at 20 times combined zoom, and as usual, you won't quite want to max it out because things get pretty fuzzy before then. You appear to have pretty much the exact same camera features and modes slapped on here as well, including a good bit of master portrait mode with the 4 focal lengths once again, so you can get it just right for your subject. And when it comes to the video chops, things again quite complex. You can't shoot 8K video here on the Xiaomi 14T, unlike the Pro, but you can capture 4K footage at 30 or 60 frames per second, unless you chuck on the HDR mode, in which case you max out at 4K 30 frames per second. And then you've also, on top of that, got the likes of the Master Cinema mode if you're shooting in more HDR type scenarios. You've also got a movie mode, where as you can see there, you can automatically focus on a subject with a double tap of them. The focus will then lock on them, even if other people are wandering in and out of frame. And as if that wasn't enough, you've also got the director mode, which is basically a completely manual mode. As you can see there, it gives you access to a whole bunch of manual controls, including ISO level, shutter speed, white balance. So you can tinker with these to your heart's content. You've also got a whole bunch of on-screen shenanigans, including a histogram. See exactly how much battery life is remaining and how much footage you can shoot before your storage fills up. And then around the front end, you've got yourself a 32 megapixel selfie shooter. And using that front-facing camera, you can record up to 4K Ultra HD resolution footage at 30 frames per second. There's no 60 FPS option here. Isn't that right, buddy? Yes, right, isn't it, buddy? And like the Pro model, the audio pickup absolutely fine when you are recording a video, but if you are shooting outdoors, you want to make sure it's not too gusty because that wind noise does get picked up pretty badly. And that right there, in a delicious wee nutshell, is the fresh new Xiaomi 14T. Now, as you can see, a few wee downgrades versus that Pro model, including, of course, the lack of wireless charging, the slower wired charging. It's a bit of a shame it's a plastic frame as well. Looks and feels a bit cheaper than I'd hoped. But on the flip side, you do actually have slightly better performance when you're gaming because it doesn't get quite so ridiculously hot. And honestly, I think most people will be more than satisfied with what they'll get out of the Xiaomi 14T. But, you know, you've always got that Pro model if you want to splash a bit more cash upgrade. Go check out my full review of that bad boy. I had my sim slapped in it for over a week testing it out. In the meantime, it'd be great to hear your thoughts on the Xiaomi 14T and the 14T Pro. Which one do you reckon you would get? Please do let us know down below, and while you're down there, you might as well poke subscribe, ding that notifications bell, and have yourselves a bloody wonderful rest of the week. Cheers everyone, love you!